You are Locked On Warriors Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Bay Area, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Locked On Warriors Postcast. I am your host, Eric Triple E Ingle. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And man, oh man, the young legs of Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody, and of course, the ageless wonder Stephen Curry, led the Warriors into Scotiabank Arena and took down the Raptors 120-105. And they did all this despite travel delays, which caused the Dubs to arrive at their hotel at roughly 7:15 a.m. Eastern time. With travel delays on a back-to-back, the young guys had to step up, and they did in the biggest way. The Warriors have now won 8 consecutive road games on the road, the most in the NBA this season. We'll break it all down, but first, I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports Bay Area YouTube channel. Please hit that subscribe button, and thank you for listening on the Locked On Warriors podcast feed. Make sure to check out the Locked On Warriors Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. And of course, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Warriors predictably came out very sluggish in this one. Again, they did not get to their hotel in Toronto until 7:15 a.m. They were delayed in New York, leaving until almost 6 o'clock this morning, or 5 o'clock this morning, rather. They landed in Toronto around 6, got to the hotel around 7:15. So the Warriors, if you were listening on the NBC Sports Bay Area broadcast, you heard Fitz talking about how he had breakfast with one of tonight's stars, Moses Moody, at about 2:33 in the afternoon today. So the Warriors definitely sluggish to start this one. 5 turnovers in the first quarter, not very good basketball, but they were only down 3 at the end of the first. A Steph Curry 3-point barrage kind of kept them in it, as well as early scoring from Moses Moody, effort plays. It was all over the court defensively, grabbing rebounds. And we'll talk more about Moses Moody later, as well as Steph shooting out of his scoring slump and a few other things as well. John Kuminga threw down one of the nastiest dunks I've seen in a long time in the second quarter. He absolutely just threw it down on Pirtle's head. Kalena's been calling him the Demolition Man. How do you guys feel about that? I kind of like it. I think we can do a little better, though. But Kuminga, then again in the third quarter, had another even nastier dunk from one step within the free throw line. He just threw down the hammer on Emmanuel Quickly, who had zero chance, a don't jump situation. And Kuminga's got a couple posters from tonight to go hang up on his wall when he gets back to the Bay next week. The Warriors have one more game on this road trip. They go to Boston on Sunday, 12:30 tip on that one. And they'll look to sweep this road trip. I mean, the Warriors playing their best basketball when it matters most right now at the end of the season. It's now March. It is playoff push time and March Madness time, but that's for a different channel. But man, time for this team to step up and show who they are going into the playoffs. And what you're seeing is young guys taking the reins and running with it. Moses Moody, John Kuminga, the same things we've been talking about night in and night out. But the one difference tonight is the Warriors closed out that fourth quarter. Big run in quarter number 3. Warriors outscored the Raptors 32-19 in that quarter, pushed their lead to 10. The bench was a big part of that. Chris Paul and Trayce Jackson-Davis pick and roll is working to absolute perfection. And the Warriors in that third quarter took the lead on a Klay Thompson 3 and never surrendered it. Seems like they really seized control of the game at that point. And John Kuminga, just Warriors doing everything to get him the ball going downhill tonight. You saw them throw it back to the Don Nelson Warriors, running a little weave action to get Kuminga running downhill. And you just saw the Raptors defenders with zero chance in this one. We can't talk about this game without acknowledging Scotty Barnes. He injured his hand going up on a loose ball in the middle of the paint, and he jammed his left hand into the rim. pretty hard too. You saw him come down grimacing, screaming. You could hear the hot mic pick up him screaming. It did not look good. You saw him run to that locker room. Shout out with everybody who has Scotty Barnes on their fantasy team. Maybe eBay Motors can help us figure out some replacements. I know I'm going to be looking for one after tonight. But yeah, I mean, Scotty Barnes was leading the Raptors in scoring, was all over the place on the defensive side of the ball, leading rebounder for the Raptors as well when he went down. So big loss for the Raptors on that one. And they couldn't really come back from that. RJ Barrett had a nice game. Wasn't enough. And for the Warriors, your leading scorer, Stephen Wardell Curry, 25 points and 7 3-pointers. What are you going to say about him? I mean, the ageless wonder. Everyone else on this team, all the veterans looked slumped tonight. They looked tired. Klay Thompson, just 5 of 13 shooting. Draymond Green, 1 of 4 from the field. The older guys did not look fresh. I mean, except for Chris Paul, who, by the way, has really solidified this Warriors second unit and has really helped out the Warriors closing unit in the fourth quarter. You saw him out there tonight, and it just felt better. Like the team feels cohesive without there. And that's exactly what Chris Paul brings to the table. And that's what we've been looking for from him coming back from injury. And that's what we're seeing. In the fourth quarter tonight, the Warriors defended without fouling. They limited their turnovers and they got to the free throw line. You saw them emphasizing this right out of the jump. Quinones was the first to do so on the Warriors' first possession. Kuminga then 1 or 2 possessions later gets to the paint. He was living in the paint tonight, man. He was drawing fouls, looking for a shot. Kuminga is playing some of the best basketball we have seen, and he's just going to get better and better and progress as we have all thought he could into the player that can be the Robin to Steph Curry's Batman. We've talked about it on this postcast many times. If Steph Curry has one other guy to help him get through and push in the playoffs when other teams are going to be, super ultra physical with him, pushing him around, double teaming him, there needs to be someone else who can take the reins to this offense and run with it. And that is proving to be John Kuminga. So tonight, Kuminga absolutely put the team on his back. Moses Moody as well, who we got to talk about. I think Moses proved a lot of fans right. I mean, Warriors fans love Moses Moody and constantly clamor for this guy to get more minutes. He makes very few mistakes, causes very few issues on the team. He's never really a vocal guy about like demanding this or demanding that. As you've heard, kind of Kuminga, I don't think he's demanded anything, but he is basically flat out publicly stated he to be involved more. But Moses Moody never rocks the boat. He only does what he's asked. And man, did he show up tonight. 3 of 5 from 3, 7 of 13 from the field, 30 minutes. And he led the Warriors in plus minus. He had a plus 17. This is the second night in a row Moses Moody has done that. And Steve Kerr, I'm assuming, is going to praise him again in the postgame press conference tonight. Probably doing that right now. But, I mean, what more do you want? I mean, Moses Moody, the Warriors had their 19th different starting lineup this year. And they pulled it out on a back-to-back, on a road trip, on short rest, on almost no rest, essentially. I mean, they didn't sleep until earlier today. And your body clock's not really right already. You're on the East Coast. It's jet lagged. Everything is off. And then you throw this in the mix. And plus, you're one of the older teams in the NBA, or at least your core is. I mean, this is not a deal. And yet they stepped up. They really did. And you even saw Klay at the end kind of get going, hitting a few threes, really slamming the door on any comeback the Raptors tried to mount or make. And it's what you want to see from this team at this point in the season. Developing ways to close games and developing other ways to win games, which is something Kuminga really helps them do. We'll get into that a little bit later. We'll make the case for why Moses Moody needs more minutes after what we've seen from him on this road trip, and how he stepped in for Andrew Wiggins while he deals with his personal issues. Real quick, before that, I just want to get you guys this tweet from Anthony Slater just so you know how bad this travel was. He said the Warriors plane was delayed getting out of New York last night. Mechanical issue. They did not take off until nearly 5 a.m., did not land until after 6 a.m., team didn't get to their hotel in Toronto until after 7 a.m. And Steve Kerr also chimed in and said, I think, quote, I think this might have been the worst we've had. You always have a few delays during the year, but those generally last a few hours. This was a tough night. We basically spent the night on the plane, so here we are, ready to go. That does not sound like a coach who felt confident coming into this one. And the Warriors lost their last tilt against the Raptors at Chase Center. Get even with them this year so they can even up that season series, get the one win that they're going to have a chance to win in Scotiabank Arena, which Warriors fans can get a little satisfaction out of that, I'm sure. We all know what happened back there in 2019. We don't need that. More on the other side, Moody proving he needs more minutes after his showing on this road trip. Is this fool's gold? The Warriors' closing minutes look good, but is this sustainable? More on these things and Kuminga's play on the other side. You are watching the Locked On Warriors postcast. I am your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and we'll be right back. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players like Steph Curry and the rest of your favorite Golden State Warriors with quick live bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors podcast. I am your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and we got to get into Moses Moody and why he needs more minutes. And we've talked about it a little bit so far in this show, but we got to do a deeper dive. And flat out, like, Moody's proved that he needs more minutes going forward. This is by far the best he's ever looked in his career, and he has looked solid the entire time since he's been here as a rookie. So here's why. This point in the season, you need guys with fresh legs, especially on back-to-backs, on East Coast road trips. And look at what Moody has done. His legs look really good. He is fresh, ready to go, energetic, rotating on defense, closing out shots. Looks great all up and down the court. Running back in transition, that's been a big issue for the Warriors this year, as we all know. Transition defense, they're not the best at it, but guys like Moses Moody help a lot. So legs look good. That's point number one. Point number two, his shot looks really nice right now, and he's looking to get it up more, inside, outside. He's doing it all. He threes, driving and kicking, getting to the rim, drawing fouls. I mean, Moses Moody has been almost in the exact spot he needs to be on every single play. You saw one play tonight, one play. He wasn't where he needed to be. When John Kuminga drove the lane, and instead on transition, Moody did not stay outside. He didn't stay in his lane and fill that corner three shooter spot. He clogged up the lane with Kuminga, drug his defender over there, and you saw that defender switch off of him, go to guard Kuminga. Kuminga got caught up in the air awkwardly, went to throw the outlet pass to the corner where he assumed Moses Moody would be, and Kuminga made the right play. He figured he drew the defender from the corner to collapse on the interior to prevent the bucket inside because the other defender was too small to stop Kuminga. And he smartly said, okay, well, if that defender is vacated, Moses is open in the corner, 4-3, and he tried to find him there. And that was the one play turned into Kuminga through the ball with stance turnover. It was the one time tonight where you noticed Moses Moody was out of position. Any other point in tonight's game, it was like, man, that guy's all over the place. And that's what I kept finding myself thinking and saying was, man, Moody is really just everywhere. And by the end of the night, it's no surprise. He led the Warriors plus minus and was the first Warrior in double figures, led them scoring at the half, finished with 17 points and a couple of blocks. Yeah, 2 blocks, a rebound, or 2 blocks, 2 steals, an assist, 5 rebounds, 17 points, 7 of 13 shooting, 3 of 5 from 3. This is ultra efficiency. Dare I say, this is very similar to an Andrew Wiggins stat line. I mean, yeah, the Warriors miss Wiggs, but it's kind of next man up right now, and it again reminds you of strength in numbers. It's we're throwing it back this year, and why not? I mean, everybody loved the strength in numbers teams. All the Warriors fans, that's one of your favorite teams, and if you've been a fan your whole life, and this is very similar feeling to that. And what else does Wiggins provide you? His defense, point number 3, his defense has been top notch. You just heard me say 2 blocks, 2 steals in tonight's game, and forced a ton of different, guys to alter their shots in the air, forced a ton of misses with his tough contests. You heard Steve Kerr praise him yesterday for his defense against Jalen Brunson in New York, which was no easy task. Brunson's averaging 28 a game. He's one of the league's leading scorers. And Moody really held him in check. They did throw a lot of different bodies at him, getting Moody off him to kind of, allow him to get some rest, not run him into the ground every single possession. But he was one of the primary defenders on Jalen Brunson last night. We saw him do it all again tonight. He had that block on a closeout on quickly, steal in the fourth quarter. He all over the place. As we've been saying before, he's been filling the Wiggins role very, 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 very well. In to the point where the Warriors, I'm not going to say Andrew Wiggins is expendable because a player of that caliber and who does the things that Wiggins does, always going to be a spot for a guy like that on an NBA team, especially one chasing a championship. But while he's out, and the Warriors do expect him back at some point this season, they just don't know when, as Steve Kerr has said. But with him out, Warriors fans can sleep soundly at night knowing Moses Moody's got your back. He's going to continue to make the right plays. And one thing he brings that Andrew Wiggins doesn't, honestly, is Moody's always in attack mode. He's got that dog in him, as the kids like to say these days. He's constantly looking to get into the mix and get dirty. And sometimes Wiggins can seem a little passive, especially for how uber athletic and talented that guy is. A guy that was, he was kind of viewed to be on maybe a LeBron level coming out of college by a lot of people. One of the most athletic guys to come out of college basketball in the last 10 years. And he's never really lived up to that level of expectation. And whether that was fair or not, that expectation is another question. But he's super, super, super athletic and kind of seems to coast on that sometimes. Moody works all the time. And I'm not saying Andrew Wiggins is lazy. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying Moses Moody is on another level. Wiggins is like average NBA intensity sometimes, and you see him kind of wavering out there. Why that happens, I don't know. Whether he needs to work on his conditioning or it's a mental thing, I don't know. But Moody's got it together. Moody's constantly fighting for every single loose ball, rebound, anything he can get. He needs more minutes. He's proved it night in and night out. And if you look at his per 36-minute stats, if he was to start somewhere, you kind of look a lot like what you saw tonight, the stat line you saw tonight, where he kind of does a little bit of everything. He's never going to lead your team in assists or scoring or rebounding or really any of these categories, but he's a glue guy who does everything and fills in all these gaps and is going to give you 110% effort every single night. And that's what you need on a championship team, and that's what the Warriors got right now. But there are some issues still. Fourth quarter defense looks good. It's getting better. It's not where it needs to be 100%, but tonight was a big step in the right direction. Warriors entered the fourth quarter up 10, finished the game with a 15-point lead. So they obviously improved their lead in that fourth quarter. You can't call that a bad quarter at that point. But is it fool's gold? Is this deceiving? Why doesn't this feel like they've figured it out? And we'll break that down next. We'll be right back. Got to get into these fourth quarter issues that have plagued the Warriors all year long. And I want to give you guys a quick little update on Clay and his production coming off the bench now that we have a couple, some numbers, a little bit of a sample size to work with. You are watching the Locked On Warriors postcast or listening to the Locked On Warriors postcast, depending on where you're getting the show, on YouTube, on the Locked On Warriors podcast channel. However you're getting the show, we appreciate you tuning in. I am your host, Eric Triple E. Engel, and we will be right back. Today's episode of Locked On Sports Bay Area is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's number one fantasy sports app with over 3 million members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. You pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Demons and Goblins are the newest and most exciting way to play at Prize Picks. Squares marked with red demons or green goblins get you different payouts. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is really simple to play, and I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. Tonight on Prize Picks, I went with who else? Moses Moody, more than 10.5 hits, more than 10.5 points, which hit. Scotty Barnes, more than 19.5 points, and quite work out so well for me, but we'll get back in there next time. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That's right. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. It's Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Welcome back to Locked On Warriors Postcast. I am your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and I got to tell you guys, this Warriors fourth quarter looked good tonight, but I think it's a little bit of fool's gold, and here's why. Let's break down the Warriors' last couple games that they've won. Good fourth quarter showings. We're going to go back to this road trip, last homestand, prior road trip as well. That prior East Coast road trip. With when they started really playing as well as they are with that win against the Nets, the Brooklyn Nets, right after they kind of squandered that Steph Curry 60-point outing against the Hawks. But we won't talk about that one. We'll talk about since the Nets game. They've looked a lot better in those closing minutes, had some hiccups along the way. But the teams that they have managed to close out, a lot of these teams are missing their star players, their key guys. Tonight, Toronto's one all-star, Scotty Barnes. He's injured. You kind of want to see them beat one of these teams whole, complete, because in the playoffs, yeah, everyone's going to be dealing with injuries, but that's something that's a problem. That teams are going to figure out by then. Guys are going to get healthy before the playoffs. You know, a lot of they played the Lakers without LeBron, for instance. LeBron's not missing a game in the playoffs. The Clippers without Kawhi. Kawhi Leonard's not missing a game in the playoffs. They got lucky not having to play the Sixers with Embiid. And even last night, Steve Kerr addressed that the Knicks were in a tough spot with all the injuries that they had. These are important games against playoff teams. Maybe not the Raptors, but all these other games. The Knicks, a playoff team. The Lakers, a playoff team. The Clippers, a playoff team. The Sixers, a playoff team. All of these games, the Warriors got it done, but you kind of felt if there's someone else in there, this might go a different way. If this team was whole, how is this going to look? And I'm telling you, tonight looked good. I like Chris Paul in closing minutes. I've said this since the beginning of the season. Chris Paul, a lineup with Chris Paul and Draymond Green out there in closing minutes is the lineup I want to see, because those guys are going to not just hold themselves accountable and make every right play, they're damn sure going to hold everybody else on that floor accountable and make sure that they are where they're supposed to be, doing the thing that they're supposed to do. You even saw a little bit of that from Draymond tonight. It wasn't in the fourth quarter, but earlier in the game, in the second quarter, it's kind of a funny little stat between Kuminga and RJ Barrett fighting for position on an inbound play right before, I think it was the last play of the second quarter. And Kuminga Barrett just pushing each other. The official comes over and tells them both to kind of chill out. And the hot mic you heard Draymond as he stepped up and pushed Kuminga back over into RJ Barrett. Said, "Don't let him stand there, bro." and they started jostling again, and then they both got double technicals. But that's kind of indicative of who Draymond is, and he's gonna be that guy out on the court with Chris Paul too, as well. That's going to hold everybody else accountable, position them physically, grab them, move them where they need to be. On switches, you see Draymond do this all the time. Put his hand in the middle of his teammate's back and push him out to the three-point line. Go close out on that shooter. Guard that guy. Put a hand in his face. Draymond is so cerebral with the way he plays. the reason why the Warriors are so much better with him, things like that that just will never show up on a stat sheet or in a scouting report. But if you watch this team, you know what he contributes. A and that's what the Warriors need to continue to do in the fourth quarter. I just personally wanna see them prove it against a playoff team that is whole as a collective. That I mean, you look at, like, what happened against the Nuggets, and that just did not feel very nice, you know? Looked like the Warriors looked a little lost in that fourth quarter, and Jokic just had them on a string, and you wonder if they can get it done against the upper levels of competition that they're gonna be facing in the playoffs. These are all questions the Warriors need to answer. They got a test coming up. Their next game, Celtics, will be coming to you live after that game Sunday, March 3rd. Boston in the TD Garden. Jason Tatum, an MVP candidate, albeit a dark horse MVP candidate. But Tatum's having a great season. Should be getting a little more love, honestly. And I don't really know why he's not. So this is going to be key for the Warriors going forward. Is obviously fourth quarter defense tonight. Good signs. They defended without fouling. They were the first team in the bonus tonight. That was a big deal. Beating teams to get into the bonus in the fourth quarter is something the Warriors have rarely done this season, and it just makes closing out games so much easier. It just makes the opponent just kind of feel like that, like they got something closing in around their neck, you know, like they need to pull that shirt collar open just to get that breath in. And the Warriors need to keep that pressure on. They let teams back into games way too much, and that's from defending. That happens because of fouls, and you gotta learn how to defend without fouling, as Chris said, all year long, as we've talked about time and time and time again on this podcast. It's just where they are. Real quick, I told you guys I was gonna provide you an update on Klay Thompson with his bench stats. So far this season, this is excluding tonight, this was coming into tonight's game. Klay as a starter, 17 points per game, 42% from the field, 37% from three-point, 30 minutes per game. Now, Klay off the bench, 27 minutes per game, so not that much different minutes per game wise, 3 minutes. I'm sure Klay notices, but not ultimately big of a difference. And guess what? In those less minutes, he's averaging 19.2 points per game, 46% from the field, and 44% from three. These stats, his shooting percentages are at or higher than his career averages for three-point career percentage from shooting from three. 3-point career shooting percentage. That's what I'm trying to say. Jeez, man. Sorry, guys. But point being, we talked about this on the last podcast when Charles Barkley had said some ridiculous stuff about Klay and that he proved that he can touch it. He clearly doesn't. He clearly still can't be. You saw him tonight drilling threes in the fourth, absolutely thwarting that Raptors comeback. And you heard him tell Sam Amaker, if you read that report in The Athletic, that he wants to be a Warrior for life. But he sees the light at the end of the tunnel, and he's not sure if he wants to play until he's 40. All this kind of stuff, it just leads to Klay embracing this bench role, and he is shining like the star he's always been, the second Splash Brother. I mean, stop disrespecting Klay, man. Nothing makes me more sad than hearing Warriors fans disrespect Klay Thompson. Just because he's not having the best year of his career. This dude's come back from so much in his career, injuries that other dudes would straight retired from. And he's out here averaging damn near 20 points a game, helping the Warriors win games and fight for playoff position. They're within 3.5 games of the fifth seed of the Suns. That whole mess of teams between 5 and 10 in the Western Conference is airtight. And you keep hearing Fitz say on the broadcast, it's going to come down to the last game of the season. And I think he's right. I think we're in this one for the long haul. That's about all the time we have for today. We could not get into some of the Kuminga stuff I wanted to get to today. We'll just have to get into that more. And next time, never a bad time to talk about Kuminga. You know what I mean? We'll get into some of that later and more on his development and how he's really turning into the player that the Warriors need him to be. We'll be coming to you live after the Warriors' next game in Boston, 12:30 p.m. tip on Sunday. Hope you all enjoy the weekend. If you are here in the Bay Area, hope you stay dry. It is going to be a wet one. Stay safe out there from that storm. Thank you. However you're getting the show, thanks for joining Locked On Warriors Postcast, whether you're listening on the Locked On Warriors podcast page or on the Locked On Sports Bay Area YouTube channel. We appreciate you. I am your host, Eric Chibley Ingle, and we will see you next time. Peace.